Real people, real radio.
Initiating the truth frequency.
This is Truth Frequency Radio.
Astronauts to the moon.
Ten, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Not to get off track here, but I feel like we're in the Truman Show, and we're in a snow globe, and they just shook it up.
Welcome to reality.
Hello, everyone. Monday night, and that must mean it's time for Monday Night Jeranism Raw. I'm your host, Jeran.
And I'm Ism. I'm Missa.
Good one.
Thanks.
And my wife is with me as well. And so, good evening. And we are coming to you live from the dry and barren west coast of California in a secret bunker that I was given access to by one Mark Sargent. As he...
Oh, Lord.
Are you making fun of my intros?
Yeah.
No. Joining us this evening is a good friend of the show, good friend overall, Mark Sargent. Mark, how are you?
Hey, I am well. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Nice to have you aboard. And with him is Miss Patricia Steer. Patricia, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, guys.
How are you?
Patricia.
Hello, Missa or Ism. It's your name for the day.
My jokes are pretty dry.
Yeah. And thank you guys for allowing me to be on your show. It's really cool.
Yeah, we talked to Mark yesterday and thought that would be awesome to have you guys on. So anything new, anything exciting? I saw there was a fresh rap off the top of the charts today.
Yeah. Or it was at the bottom of the charts. I don't really know.
I gotta say, and Patricia and I talked about it on her thing. It was a good production. It was a solid rap. The lyrics, of course, needed work, and it seemed a bit angry. But then again, how many people rap happy other than say Will Smith?
Yeah, not very many.
When he was the Fresh Prince. I mean, so Eric was right there. I mean, the comments, the ratings were good. The comments were good. I'm a little amazed, though, that's the path he took. So the last 3 videos, he's done, 2 skits and a rap.
I like how people are making stuff about flat Earth or even just about science in general. And the content is what I look at, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but he has definitely changed, hasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know where he is. I mean, honestly, I thought that Matt was unpredictable, but now Eric he's going down roads. Is like I have no idea what he's going to do next.
I don't see it that way. I see it as very predictable. Actually, there's one part in the video where it shows a close up and he's got all the striations going on because he's all pumped up physically. He's very thin and in shape, vegan, but you can see the close up of the anger coming off of him, radiating off of him. And I've seen that in several other videos where I was the subject matter as well. So I see it as predictable because he's got a lot of anger in him.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, he does. And I think the sad part, for me at least, is that he was basically handed the keys to the city. I mean, there's not one of us that was going to do anything but let him lead this whole thing. He had a great speaking voice and seemed to be articulate and understood the content, and he would have been given the keys if he wouldn't have gone around and yelled the S word all day long.
The S word.
That damn 6-letter S word,
Nice. Yeah. I don't know. Excuse me.
5 letter.
I don't know what where exactly he's going with this, but I mean but he keeps changing. Like this time, he didn't really go after Patricia that much. He mentions me only in the last line, but he sort of dedicates the video partly to Paul Michael Bales.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It was,
which was interesting. I know. I mean, none of us were there when it happened. Paul says, "No, I introduced him to Flat Earth," and Eric's saying, "No, that's not the case." It's like, does it really matter?
Yeah, it just doesn't.
It doesn't.
Doesn't happen to me.
It's like, look, Eric made the videos first, then Paul decided to come back in. So Eric has a right to his claim. No, whatever.
He can have it, whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't matters who was first or whatever, but I think they definitely would work better as a cohesive unit than a split up.
Yeah,
like battling between each other. It just doesn't seems ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, I mean, everybody knows that Matt was doing this years before either of those guys were. So, Matt, like you were saying that Eric had the keys, no, Matt had plenty of chances
True.
to do something there. And even now, he's still not. I mean, what was that thing that you saw where he was like challenging Google because of the, do you see that one?
Yeah, but I guess, last time I talked to Matt, I don't think that they were going to give him a court date or something. So I don't know what happened with that, but he was supposed to go to court this month.
Well, did you see the video there where he put that video up like 3 days ago where he was like, oh yeah. Patricia, you remember that one, right?
Yes, I actually only vaguely watched it, but I do think he actually went to court.
Yeah,
Yes.
like the day after he shot this recent video, and it was like a 12, 13-minute rant where he was saying, "Oh, it's me against Google." It's basically he was trying to get the video pulled down, the one that the Morgile put out, but he kept referencing Eric as well. And I'm not exactly sure what exactly he wanted at the end. Like all likenesses taken down. It's like, what, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Is it testosterone? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mint.
No, I wasn't going to say anything important.
I doubt that. And because of that, continue. You go first, and I'll follow up.
No. I forgot already, actually.
So did I. So.
Well, no, he
prepare for the show.
I know.
No, it's not testosterone. It's something else. It's pride, but he doesn't know what to do with it because initially he thought it's like, well, I'm Matt Boylan. I can be above this and I can just come in whenever I want. But then he realized that other people were doing stuff and then he wouldn't do interviews, and now he's just kind of scrambling. I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
There's no winner. There's no number one guy. There's no best guy. There's no who came first.
No.
It's all one world we're living on, one flat earth. My goodness, people.
See, but he even said it perfectly. Didn't he say that it's a leaderless movement?
He did at one time, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But then he comes back and says, you're using my model, Morgile, to argue against on Art Show, and it's like ridiculous.
My favorite line was at the end of one of his things where he was painting one of the floors, and I was waiting for it. I was just waiting for him to say it because I knew he wanted to say it, which was he's going, have a round table with Eric and Mark and me. He goes, why should I have to be in the room with those guys? It's my movement. It's like, oh no, dude, you didn't invent flat Earth, so stop. Besides, you've heard me say this on several things where I wasn't kidding. I'm absolutely not kidding when I said the first, 6-7 interviews that I did, they were people that were calling me looking for Matt, but I was the only one with a phone number out there.
Right.
So they were calling me and going, and I felt a little awkward because they were saying, hey, do you know how to get a hold of asking?
Well, it's crazy because the last couple of days we've been watching a couple things on YouTube, and I saw Confessions of a BET rap producer, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
And this guy's talking about what goes on in the industry. And I think it made me feel bad for all the people in the industry because by the time you get to the point where you realize what it's about, it's too late. So, it surprises me that Matt was able to get out. Because what they tend to do is they tend to give you money and give you prestige and give you all this, fame and fortune. And then you get to a certain point, and the way this BET guy was talking is that, one of these guys will take you in a room and basically say, blow me, for a lack of a way to say it. And they basically sit there and have their entire life is put
right there.
There. They have to make the decision. And if they say, well, what happens if I say no? And it's like, well, you don't want to see. And it reminds me of Capricorn 1, right? Where those guys say, well, what if we don't go along with this? What if we don't? And they say, don't try that. You don't want to see what happens. Your families are flying on a plane together. Yeah. So it just puts people in a tough predicament. And I think that's the only way, because you've already given them this money and this fame. So they only look at, well, I can go back to being nothing again, or even worse than that. Who knows what they're going to do to me? Yeah. So it's just a tough predicament. And I think that's what they do to these actors, and is they kind of give them all this fame. Not that his one stint on a MTV show was fame.
Exactly.
It could have gone that direction if he had decided to continue doing that kind of thing. So
yeah. Hey, again, we'll for me though, it was the other reason why I think it was mostly true was because we've all seen what happens to the flat Earth. It affects people in different ways. I kind of joke it's kind of like the radiation thing in Marvel Comics.
Yeah,
hit people with a whole bunch of radiation. Let's see what happens. And that's seemingly what happens to a guy when it sits in your head for 12, 13 years, and you can't convince anybody that it's real.
Right.
I'm not saying that he went completely Fruit Loops, but eccentric doesn't. Captain Jack Sparrow, I used to call him that. No, I think Captain Jack Sparrow is actually more well-adjusted than Matt is in a lot of. I'm not picking on you, man.
No,
I'm just.
I love him too, he came over our house for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he was funny. We had a great time. We talked, but honest to God, we went out in front of the house to get ready for the eclipse, and we were setting up our cameras.
Yeah.
And off in the distance, there's this car dealership, and it just so happened to be right in line with where the moon should have been coming up. Yeah. And they were flying this huge red balloon. And so we were all laughing like, oh, there's the eclipse. It's right there, the red balloon. Now, Matt went off on this tangent for half hour saying that they had guys in every city with red balloons.
Oh, God.
Even after he left, we looked at each other and said, was he serious about the
joking?
red balloon?
I couldn't tell if he was joking
half hour, we couldn't tell. Like, was he kidding about because he just kept going on and on about it, that there was every city, they had a guy with a red balloon. That's what the eclipse was. It's a red balloon. We're like, no, that was a car dealership.
He will always be my secret flat Earth crush, though.
He's a very charismatic guy. What you just said there, yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's so funny, and
he's got. Well, there's a reason why he was on television and in movies. He's got a lot of charisma. He's built for camera. He's super creative. He sings, he plays instruments, he paints. All this.
Can't have a full-on conversation with him worth anything.
No,
no. It's funny. It's funny. You just go into conversations with him knowing that.
Like, did you get that from the 6 words Patricia said during her interview with him?
Oh, that was so hard for me. I kept wanting to talk, and it was reminding me of that game that girls play in elementary school where it's at recess time, and then 2 girls get a long jump rope, and then there's swiveling it, and then a girl jumps in the middle and has to start jumping, and then they bring in 2 ropes, double dutch, and it was like that moment before you jump in, you're like, wait, can I get in? Can I get in? Oh no, I missed my chance, and that's just how I felt the whole time.
Oh man,
that's too funny. He was funny, and yeah, you can't get a word in edgewise. He was going on, and you try and say something, and he just runs the conversation. Now, you have to admit, though, out of the Eric videos, which, of course, he did one where he tried to pretend like he was me. I didn't really get the joke, but regardless, in the second one, I was watching it again, getting ready for my spot.
I was dying.
I said, here he comes. He's going to make fun of me. And he did the mad impression of going up to the computer and saying, is this thing recording? And that I was dying, and then when he took the broom and was painting the floor, I know it was also negative about you guys, but that part was, I definitely had to laugh about that.
I don't think he does that great of an impression of me.
I think it's terrible.
It's terrible.
He uses the keyword "but" that you say. And his impression of me, he wears what look like female clothes, and he says flat earth and other hot potatoes. But it's not really an impression of me. It's just that.
No.
But he did really well with Matt, though.
Matt, he nailed Matt.
Yeah, I didn't understand the Mark part. It just didn't. I really am upset that people brought up the butt part because I never heard it.
I never heard it before either, and now
hear it every time.
I do hear it.
Me too.
Yes.
It pisses me off.
Which means it's not a real problem in the way Mark communicates, but it's made into one.
I say it because of instead of however, because it's shorter, and instead of actually,
right, or
any of the other transition words.
If I rewatch some of my videos, the amount of times I say the word "so," it's like every time I'm talking to so, and it's like,
did he do so on you?
No,
he didn't pick that up.
I don't remember even what he was trying to get across, like pay my Patreon or something account, or he was wearing a beanie. That was pretty much it.
Wow.
We all have our little verbal crutches, all of us, those who are on the air and off the air. It's just humanity.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started, people were, every comment in the comments is, stop sucking your teeth. It's like,
see, I never noticed you did that. Now that's all I'm going to hear.
Wait a minute. Somebody do it. I don't.
It was my first 5 videos,
And a lot of people do it. Like when that girl came on our show,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Summer did it a lot.
A lot of people who are new to like talking on live
I don't know why.
videos, they do that.
I don't do it anymore, and I had to think about it to stop doing it because it was something
really
I was just
cute.
doing without thinking about it. But that was the first. I wish those comments would come back rather than the ones I see now. But
those were mild.
Yeah,
I have a swivel chair. I'm at an office sort of desk with one of those swivel chairs, and sometimes I slightly move side to side in it, and sometimes I see in my videos it looks like I'm moving for a couple seconds. And I've had people make comments. It's a gross comment. Can I make a gross comment?
Yes,
that
absolutely.
She looks like she's sitting on a sex toy. I'm like,
how nice.
Please.
Yeah, people have told me that about you as well.
That would be really nice if we.
What? They have?
My favorite one is the hologram cats.
They said that you wiggle more when you're talking to me, and I said, "Wow, really? I never really noticed."
It's just a function of sitting frozen where I'm not trying not to use my hands, because of course if you use your hands and you're on camera, you may make a Masonic sign.
Yeah.
You may make a Satan sign. So I'm doing that, and then I just get, sitting in the same exact position. You slightly move. If you were sitting in an office chair at work, you'd probably do the same thing in a cubicle.
I'm getting so used to, because I like handling guns anyway. I think I'm going to hold this temperature gun from now on when I'm on
awesome
camera.
Oh,
Yeah,
those things.
Have you gone out and done your test yet?
Yeah, I did. And I completely forgot about something, and that was because of the time of year it is, the moon is actually lower than the sky than the Rob Skiba test or even the Sandy's test. So yeah, I was getting a 4-degree swing, but I was kind of disappointed because I wanted double digits. And then I was going, oh, it's because the moon, like the sun, is low in the sky. So it's never going to be directly overhead. If you want a really good swing, you got to have it up high in the sky. But it did work. Absolutely worked. And it was really cool. Again, it's a great little test that anybody can do, and I highly encourage it because it gets you in a different frame of mind, because it makes you look at the moon more. And the more now that I look at the moon, I was going, of course it's self-illuminated.
So what exactly did you do? I don't really.
She doesn't she know about the moonlight test?
I do, but for our listeners.
Oh, right. Well, the moon test, what you do is the theory was, and I laughed at this, flat Earth, and I laughed at something when somebody said, "Oh yeah, by the way," and I don't know if it was Eric actually that reported it first. It wasn't him that created it. He got it from somewhere else, from an old book that said, "Oh yeah, by the way, the moonlight's cold." I was going, "What are you talking about? The moonlight's cold?" And that is, we all know that it's, if it's 100 degrees in the sun, it's 90 degrees in the shade, roughly, or maybe 80, depending on where you are. Well, if you look at the moonlight, and let's say it's 50 degrees in the moonlight, if you go into the shade of the moonlight, it's actually warmer. It's the opposite. And that shouldn't be possible. So it's like if it's 50 degrees in the moonlight, it's 60 degrees in the moon shade. Well, mainstream science tells us that the moon is reflecting some of the sun's rays. So at the very least, it should be a little bit warmer in the moonlight, or at the very least neutral, but it's not. And the more people that have been doing it, and it's not like, you can point at the ground and get the same results, but Amir out as Insanity as Sandy, he did a test with copper plates. And I actually suggested, I will take credit for this, where I actually suggested, okay, what happens? We all know if you take a magnifying glass of the sunlight, you can burn paper with it. Well, what happens if you take a magnifying glass of the moonlight? Does it get warmer, or does it actually get colder?
It gets colder.
And it gets colder.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. But
rudimentary style and with a magnifying glass, but it didn't change the temperature at all, which I still thought was impressive, because how can it not increase the temperature?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah. But it really breaks down. It changes what you think of the moon, because if as soon as you realize it's okay, the sun cannot be reflecting off the moon. The moon is not transmuting the radiation from the sun and turning it into a refrigerant. That's impossible. That's like taking a heat lamp, bouncing it off your wall, and trying to chill vegetables on the other end of it. It doesn't happen. So if the moon is
it's self-illuminating, in my opinion. I think it's like almost like a glow-in-the-dark kind of thing. You've seen.
There you go.
It's charging up.
Oh, there you go. It could be that as well. But either way, it's giving off a light that doesn't make any sense, which means, okay, what is the relationship between the sun and the moon, and where do you go from there? And so it's a great anyway, it's a test anyone can do. $15, a little point and click digital thermometer, and you can test it out yourself.
So how do you think like people from NASA, or I guess you could even say Bill Nye, the science guy,
how would you try to explain that?
Yeah. What would they say?
Man, they'd probably come up with something that has to do with the atmosphere. That
Gravity.
Gravity.
Atmospheric refraction.
It's something. They would have to come up with something and say, well, at nighttime there's something that happens in the atmosphere, and it's like, really, because it still doesn't explain why it's warmer in the shade. It a lot warmer. I mean, the Rob Skiba one was brilliant, where it's like 12 degrees.
Yeah.
If it's high in the sky, I mean, I was getting 4 degrees, and it's really low on the horizon. And granted, it was a full moon, but it was amazing. And so, it makes you question. Things start to break down at that point, because you're starting to look, and it's like, okay, what exactly is science telling us?
And there's a lot of charges, or a lot of causes, or a lot of things that happen with the moon that are strange. As far as I read a lot of old stories about men who would stay up all night on the boat during the full moonlight. They would go crazy.
Sure.
It's bad for you.
Well, it makes sense now, because the moon is giving off a different sort of radiation. Then why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we see it in animals all the time, and people and all the cops say the same thing. They say, "Oh,
So what's the purpose of the moon then? If it's doing something negative, something cold and almost psychologically chilling, why do we have it? Maybe it's something bad.
Go to sleep. Go inside. Don't go out. Go to sleep. It's a subtle negative hint.
Somebody told me once, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. Right?
I've heard that too.
I know that one. Yeah, there was a comedian. that said, "Have you ever known anyone that takes $400 out of a cash machine at 2 a.m. for something good?" Doesn't happen. It's always bad.
It's like, save the children.
It's like the one Josh and I were in Reno, and he told me, I said, I walked by him and said, "How you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm up 4,000. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wow, really good." So I go walk over. I'm sitting at a slot machine, and I see him out the corner of my eye, kind of sneak around the corner to the ATM. I'm like, "Oh, you're up
nice.
going to the ATM machine, are you?" Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Just need a little bit more than that 4,000, I guess.
Wow.
So we have a break coming up here in less than a minute, and then when we come back, I think it was a good thing that you brought up. I will read the definition of gravity and refraction, because they're both, in my opinion, Missa and I were talking about them today. They're hilarious definitions, because how many words do we have that have definitions that are so vague and wide-ranging? That's the definition of those two, and it's like that's their go-to calls. Oh, you can see that you're not supposed to? Refraction.
Wild card.
We'll be right back, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's Monday night. It is Raw, and it's Jeran.
And don't go anywhere.
Exposing faux capitalism with Jason Erm. Saturday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Oh, I guess our show host is on another vacation. He's
Your mic will be live in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, welcome back. This is Jeran is a Monday Night Raw, and we're here with segment number 2 with myself and Missa, and we've got Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer with us. So, guys, thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it. So I was going to read quick. Hello, yes, hello.
What?
I don't know. I couldn't hear. I thought somebody was talking.
You can't hear me?
Now I can. Okay, there you are.
Okay, good. I was just saying fun.
You should have background music to play whenever there's a pause. Just because.
Get that hooked up here. I was talking to Red's Rhetoric today, my best friend.
Why?
Because I always talk to him. I don't know why.
He always talks to you.
Yeah, he was...
He's like, dude, go live with me right now. Go live with me.
What was it? Oh, because I commented on his video of the ISS. He took a video of the ISS that I thought looked fake. So, of course, I made a couple comments like... Because he said something about unedited or something, and I said, "No, it looks edited to me." And so he said, "Come live with me." So we're talking, and then he says, "So are we going to have a debate?" And I said, "That's fine." He said, "Well, and I get to pick the moderator." I'm like, "Sure, whatever. I don't even care. Whatever you want to do." He's like, "Well, I pick Patricia Steer." And I said, "What?" Yeah. And he says, "Yeah, because I don't want you to complain about it being a moderator issue why you lost the debate, so I'm picking Patricia Steer." And he said, "Because I figured I'd pick the worst liar in the flat Earth." And I was like, how is Patricia Steer lying? He's like, oh, she lies as much as the rest of you guys do. I said, she interviews people, dude. How lost are you?
She would actually, Patricia would be the best pick for that because she's an interviewer. You are an interview. I'm not talking about these.
Have you ever moderated a debate?
No, but I think I'd be excellent at it.
I think
seriously.
Too. Oh my gosh, I'm so
Interesting.
excited if it ever.
I've thought that before when we've had two different debates. One, of course, that Mark did here on TFR with Kristen and Cherie, and they didn't really have to moderate because it was Stanton Friedman, and it wasn't really a debate. It turned out to be not that way because Stanton wasn't up to date on flat Earth. And then the other day with David Weiss and Mark, and it was on Dark
30.
Dark 30 Radio. I keep wanting to call it Dark City Radio or something.
Or darkness, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Dark Night Radio.
Exactly.
Just seemed like a mess that guy would, hey, can you do me a favor and please speak into the phone? The guy's like, I'm speaking into it. Okay, never mind. I'm sorry. So sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't able to, he wasn't a moderator. He was really on the side of globe earthers. He allowed the Mark D'Antonio and other assorted people that he had with.
As a contract, his company was working with eBay on some marketing stuff, and he got away with a lot of money.
Pocketing, oh boy.
And it took them 6 years of litigation before they finally put him to prison.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I was telling Mark the other day, and I think people should look into it because I haven't had time, and it is very important. But the guy who is in charge of the records for the Felix Baumgartner jump, and so I believe he's either, I don't know if it's a NASA employee, it's more a...
His name is Brian Utley.
And it's the International Association of Aeronautical People, whatever that is. The IOAA, is that it?
Yeah, he's in charge of announcing and the official
records and stuff, right. And if you do some research on him, he's been indicted and on fraud charges and
crazy
stuff that he's taken people's patents
on lenses and camera lenses.
Yeah, really weird stuff. And to think this guy is responsible for verifying the records of people who are jumping out of planes and doing any kind of aeronautics, that there is. This guy's the head person, and it's like, how do you have somebody who's...
Well, they have to have fraudulent people running their ship because they are frauds. So,
What are you going to have? Somebody who's serious in charge of it? That doesn't make any sense.
You know, the other, that is very, very interesting. Yeah, that guy's Mr. Integrity. I'm sure he would never lie for money.
Oh, sure.
The other thing that kind of bugged me was, not bugged me, but was interesting, was talking to these two different guys. They had two different opinions on several things. One was, one was the Coriolis effect that D'Antonio had.
It absolutely has something to do with bullets.
No. He was the one that said there wasn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect ballistics at all.
Right. He was so proud that he knew that too. So you could feel the pride.
Which is true. And then Dunning comes back and says, no, absolutely has to do with it. And he didn't know other things like, the weather balloon stuff. And I don't know necessarily if you agree, Jeran, because we haven't talked for a little while on this, where the weather balloon stuff doesn't necessarily prove the flat Earth one way or the other, because you still got to get much, much higher, at least for the left or right stuff. But what it does show is that anything like the Red Bull, any other pictures that show any curvature, most of them are super exaggerated, are a complete fabrication.
As are the people who say they've seen it with their own eyes.
Oh yeah,
yes,
yeah, them too. It's but it was listening to those guys kind of. But the one thing that I took away from it, which was weird, it kind of stopped me in my tracks. You probably heard it, where he said, from a scientist's point of view, there is nothing they can do on the ground to prove the globe. There's nothing they could do. He goes, because I asked him, what would you do? Show the average person the globe on the street. How would you prove it to him? He goes,
a great question too.
It was something
I couldn't do. I had nothing. I don't really have anything.
I'd give him $20 million and I'd try to put him up in a rocket. And I go, so there's nothing you can do down here. He goes, no. I was going, well, there's and he realized this was a problem with science in that scientists on the ground can't prove the globe. So literally, again, no play on words here, they're on a level playing field with the flat earthers because they don't have any ammunition. I mean, they come back and say, well, flat earthers don't have anything. It's like, no, science doesn't have anything down here.
Right. It comes down to NASA is basically.
Yeah, which is. Yeah, it's like, okay, fine, that you rely on the space people and the rocket people. Show me all their evidence. And I know that people get on us for saying, oh, we pick on NASA too much. I'm going, no. They're the gatekeepers.
Right.
You've got to pick on them.
There's somebody who's been taking our money who was supposed to be telling us what space was and instead was telling us what space in their mind is going to be.
We were listening to that interview from a long time ago. What was it, in like 2002 or something? Who was that guy who was interviewing?
Oh, I showed Mark that
or
guy.
some radio show.
What was his name again?
The
did
British guy, the retired.
Was he British? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
He did it so perfectly where someone had called in because he's like, I want round earthers to call in and tell me whatever their proofs for the globe. And he was just so like matter of fact, like, no, you've been brainwashed. No, you've been brainwashed. And he was getting them to say things, say what they believed in, and they would stumble, be like, well, no, because this and...
But it goes around...
yeah, like getting somebody to say exactly what we have a problem with I think is huge, because then it's coming out of their own mouth. And
I got kicked out of... Well, I think I did. Got kicked out of the chat today with Red's Rhetoric because at a certain point I caught him up in his words because we were talking about the view from Toronto or from New York, seeing the Toronto skyline.
Yeah.
And I was talking about he said, how far is the person above sea level on this side? And I said, oh, like 250 feet. And he said, no, I mean above the level of the water. And I said, oh, you said sea level, which that lake is 250 feet above sea level.
Above sea level, yeah. Sea level is ocean. People keep forgetting that.
Right. So then he was like kind of confused. And then he said, oh, well, it's the same on both sides of that lake. And I said, hold on a second. I said, so on both sides of the lake, it has to be the same. Why? Because it's flat. Because the water is flat, right?
Yeah.
He was kind of like hung up because he said, no, it's flat because it follows the curvature of the earth. And this is where the problem lies, is that in a theoretical world where there is this ball that is flat in every area because it's measured directly to the center of the earth, then that's where we have a problem, is it can never be measured because every place you're measuring is the same distance to the center.
And the math that everyone's taught is that the curve is flat.
Right.
I mean, they're taught counterintuitive math.
Flat out says that in the Surveyor's Guide. It says by definition, the surface of a sphere is flat.
So it's terrible.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
Brainwash.
Yeah, and you know what you mentioned there, quite a few people get confused with that, and I told, because I was trying to figure that out, because they're saying, but they're confusing sea level with water level, and that is no, sea level is ocean. That's all but when you're, yes, and if you're talking about one side of a lake to the other, but that's not sea level. That's just the level of the land. I don't think there's even a name for it, because that entire lake area could be, I mean, there's lakes that are thousands of feet above sea level.
Right, but again, from one side of the lake to the other would have to be...
That has to be the same level, because shoreline is a shoreline. Yeah. But there's no name for that. I mean, we kind of put sea level as kind of a fill in the blank thing for that. But yeah, you're absolutely
the lake's elevation.
There you go.
Lake Tahoe has...
But it's a given, like algebra, and that is, look, the shoreline on either side is the shoreline. Yeah. It's the water line. So whatever, you guys know this. Yeah. Wait, by the way, there's one thing I got to mention, and I don't know if you heard me read the George Orwell quote, which was and this was because of kind of, I was looking this up kind of because Brian Dunning had mentioned it, and that is, scientists can't prove anything on the ground, and I ran into a listener sent us the best stuff, and
they do.
It's like, really? And it's like, wow, haven't you seen this? Like, it was posted 20 minutes ago, dude. How did I? It's great that you saw it, but I haven't seen it. The George Orwell actually wrote an article in 1946 in the Tribune in December 27th, 1946, and it was titled, it was all about the flat Earth. Mm-hmm. And he got down, it was basically arguments, and he was realizing that it was really hard to prove the globe. And he gets down to the end of it, and he says, most people, if asked to prove that the Earth is round, would not even bother to produce the rather weak arguments I have outlined above. They would start off by saying that everyone knows the Earth to be round, and if pressed further, would become angry. And they said, in a way, Shaw is right. This is a credulous age, and the burden of knowledge which we now have to carry is partly responsible. But what was interesting about that is that even in the 1940s, and pretty much every time before that, that's the argument. That's the knee-jerk reaction. Remember, this was 12 years before NASA. Right. And so when you went to somebody and said, hey, how do you know the Earth is round? It's like, what are you talking about? Everybody, of course it's round. You're an idiot. And that's interesting because back then, they didn't even have NASA to fall back on. So, which also puts more pressure on why the space program was inevitable, because sooner or later that argument right there, that doesn't hold. It can't hold up.
Have you seen the principle yet, Mark?
Parts of it. Yes, but I have not watched the whole thing.
I've not watched it either.
Oh, you got to see it if it's a movie, because again, a lot of people say, why do you keep recommending that movie if it's about geocentrism?
It exposes science to the core.
Yeah, really.
See, I've avoided it because it's saying we're on a globe, and
it doesn't actually say that. So the movie
really okay.
It's not a geocentrist movie, as in they're trying to push that model. They're just showing that science, and in fact, I think there's a huge proof lying right in that movie. At one point, they're talking about the cosmic microwave background, and they show that there's sections of it that they can't see, and their description of that, or their reasoning, is because the Earth blocks that portion of the sky. So I'm thinking, if we're on a ball, you just wait 12 hours, you're on the other side of the ball. How can there be any portion of the sky blocked by the Earth? But then again, if we're on a flat Earth, well, there would be a 30% or 25% of the actual sky. If you kind of think of what they think of space around the flat Earth, there is a portion of the night sky you would never be able to see, what is technically below the Earth.
Yeah.
Sure.
So it really kind of showed me some things, and I'll just read a quick quote here from Hubble, because I think this is where it really started to sink into me that these guys, science, went in a direction that they chose because of their feelings towards God, because their feelings towards the Creator. So they just say such a condition would imply that we occupy a unique position in the universe, analogous in a sense to the ancient conception of a central Earth. This hypothesis cannot be disproved, but it is unwelcome and would only be accepted as a last resort in order to save the phenomenon. Therefore, we disregard this possibility. The unwelcome position of a favored location must be avoided at all costs. Such a favored position is intolerable. Therefore, in order to restore homogeneity and to escape the horror of a unique position, must be compensated. By spatial curvature, there seems to be no other escape. So they're basically saying there that we have to go with this curvature of space-time, because otherwise our choice is that we are the center of everything. And
which they don't want.
No, they can't stand it. It's the horror of a unique position, and the favored position is intolerable. I mean, the words that they use are
God
sad.
forbid you're held responsible for your actions,
so to speak.
Right.
Yeah. And in fact, it's something that I've been kind of focusing on more lately, which is that their science, where I won't go into the big rant right now because I'm still working on it in case I actually meet up against science. And by the way, one quick little side note for you. I don't know if you've scheduled anything for Red's rhetoric, but honestly, he's beneath you at this point. I agree with that. I'm not even entertaining debates unless somebody's got credentials to back them up.
Right.
Just because
if the whole story with us from the very beginning started out as I was going to him for math issues, trying to figure out math, and then he kind of became rude about it and just joking about it, and then made videos about it, and then I made videos back, and it's still somebody who I could text him or whatever it's called, Skype him, and just say, hey, how come this, and this happens? And he'll respond, or he'll ask me something. Why did you say this? Yeah, and it's just something. I wouldn't say it's definitely not a friendship, but he asked. I told him that we would have a debate if he showed me how what SpaceX did was physically possible, and they haven't been able to do that. So
again, it's your status at this point. I know you probably don't see it as that, but you're getting up there. So debating someone like that doesn't have anything he's risking nothing.
Right.
Have a scientist or someone at least with a map.
He doesn't even show his face
well,
or his real.
That's a good point Mark's making.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Well, and allowing somebody to talk to you with the vulgarity that he uses, it really makes me cringe. You deserve more respect as a human being than he offers you.
Yeah,
it makes me really angry.
Shows you how you can. I mean, I can just let that stuff bounce off me. I just don't.
Yeah, I guess I know you're a better man than me, but yeah.
I had a German scientist. He said he was an astronomer or whatever, offered to debate me on Skype, but I think it was going to be audio only, and he wouldn't give me his name. And I said,
or show his face.
Or show his face. I'm going, dude, I hate to say this, but you could be anybody. I don't care what unless you cannot be anonymous and debate me. It is pointless. I'm putting myself out there. You put yourself out there. If you don't do it, what's the point?
You're hyping.
You might as well be, just a voice from the crowd.
And that's very important to me that people do that. I mean, if Patricia remembers, the very first conversation I had with Patricia was about her being real. I mean, it was important to me.
Real names,
people,
that sort of
thing. I want to know people's real names. I want to make sure that, nobody's coming into this with a fake name. I still say that, that for me at least, this is my opinion, that Eric Dubé is not his real name because he had
It isn't his real name.
Yeah,
as
he
far
had
as
his
I know.
Facebook taken away, and I know what Facebook takes away your Facebook from is if it's you can't prove that's your name.
Yeah.
So he says, "Oh, I sent in my ID and they didn't take it, and they took my stuff." Well, then that means that your ID doesn't have Eric Dubé on it.
Yeah.
He also blamed the Facebook and IFRS going down basically on Mark and I.
How that happened, I have no idea.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
Mark, he was in the underground basement, just pulled the plug.
Well, actually, it's a switch, but that's all right.
Lever.
What? I was just saying. No, I mean, Matt was the one that outed him as being anti-Semitic. I had nothing to do with that. In fact, I even came on tonight. I said, look, just take down the one video you made and people will actually come back and somewhat forgive you, I think. I mean, yeah, you're probably not going to patch it entirely up with the Jewish community. But anyway, before we go to break, I want to mention this one thing, which was what I've been doing with the science angle, which was science for me has now taken here's the problem I have with them as of late, which is people don't realize that the Indiana Jones. You remember everyone remembers the end of the Indiana Jones, the first movie, where they take the Ark of the Covenant and then they just box it up and put it in a warehouse,
Yeah.
and you never see it again. And people say, "Oh, that's very kind of interesting as for the movie." It's like, no, that's pretty much what would happen. Only it wouldn't be a cardboard or wouldn't be a box. It'd be a metal container, and that sucker would be put under, in the middle of the Nevada desert somewhere. No one's ever going to see that thing, and because the Ark of the Covenant conflicts with a lot of science beliefs, and which is why I'm trying to put this at people and saying, look, if science men of science were the ones that figured out what the shape of this world were, if they were the ones that figured out, hey, it wasn't a globe after all, and the real truth hurts science, do you really think they're going to they're going to blemish, they're going to hurt their own profession willingly?
That's been my theory for a long time, that I said if you kind of follow the progression of what people would have thought, they would have originally thought it was flat. Then they would have seen boats going over the edges and said, "Oh, she's a bowl," and they would have said it's a ball. And then if they would have gotten to the point where they had optics and telescopes, and then they realized they were wrong, they would have sent somebody up and made sure that they said it was a ball.
Yeah, and you think about the whole, Mark's idea of putting the truth in a box and hiding it. You wonder then why they pretty much block off, unless they have a bunch of money, the access to Antarctica and access to the North Pole, is because maybe there's something there that would disprove what they're trying to teach people.
Yeah, I don't even think if you had a lot of money, they're not going to let you wander around there by yourself.
No, $1 billion isn't going to get you anywhere.
You guys sell rare books, and under the Vatican or somewhere around the Vatican supposedly is an incredibly large stash of rare, one-of-a-kind books that tell perhaps anyway, secrets of the world.
Probably.
Same thing, locked up in a box, like Mark is saying.
Tommaso Campanella has a whole bunch of books.
I dream of going there and sleeping in the aisles of books.
Nice. But yeah, I mean, they sealed off everything. Again, if it was just one thing, but everything kept pointing to the same thing for me, which is, okay, fine. You sealed off the upper edge and the outer edge, and you did it simultaneously. That's brilliant. That doesn't, reek of anything suspicious at all. What are you trying to hide? Oh, nothing. It's like, really?
We're just doing science down here.
And all that was happening also at the very same time as all of the German mind control testing and the brainwashing and the human testing. So it's like they were setting up for, how are we going to brainwash people into believing what absolutely can be disproven?
Did they do an incredible job or what?
Yeah.
And now we've got potentially
elevated or lowered, stretched or shortened, with no mirage involved. It is like a
so
completely...
what exactly does it do?
It's a completely backwards sentence. It says that it causes mirages, and then can make items appear to shimmer or ripple, elevate or lower, so they can be high or low, the stretched or shortened, so they can be fat or skinny, with no mirage involved.
It just it gives it the, like, if you see something rippling, whatever that means, then it could be refraction.
And if it's higher than it's supposed to be, it's refraction.
But if it's lower, it's also refraction.
It's also refraction. So it's like such nonsense. And then the same thing with gravity, which is my favorite definition of anything.
You love to read the gravity.
I do love to read the gravity one, because it says that so as a consequence, gravity has a negligible influence on the behavior of subatomic particles and plays no role in determining the internal properties of everyday matter. On the other hand, gravity is the dominant interaction for a macroscopic scale and is the cause of the formation and shape and trajectory and the orbits of astronomical bodies, It is responsible for various phenomena observed on Earth and throughout the universe. For example, it causes the Earth and other planets to orbit the sun, the moon to orbit the Earth, the formation of tides, and the formation and evolution of galaxies, stars, and solar systems. So what the hell is that?
Gravity equals God.
Equals God. And that's something we've done before, too, is taken this whole definition and replaced the word gravity with God. And it's a hilarious story because they wouldn't allow it in any other case. And with refraction, the reason I've got onto that is this whole thing with, what's his name? Jeff C., who is going on and on about how these things that we're seeing are not proving flat Earth. And he keeps calling it refraction. Well, it's like the whole idea of a superior mirage, which I basically, I'm putting out a video come out shortly after this, that basically shows that there is no such thing, that they are all the same thing. A mirage is always a reflection of an item.
Which would be upside down.
If it's upside down, it would be on top of it. So they talk about a superior mirage being when it's lifted but right side up, but it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
There is no examples of that other than when they need it for the reason why buildings are showing so far up above water that they think it shouldn't be seen. So they just call it something. It's like, well, how is it happening? There's nowhere else that something shows a reflection.
And if they were really scientific, then they would hear our suggestion of, well, maybe it means the Earth is flat. They would say, no. If they're really scientists,
or they would go
be
test
like,
it.
Huh, interesting. Let me go look into that.
Right. No, they're not going to look into it at all, believe me, because it scares them to death.
I know.
So that's some funny definitions. And, I want to, there's more. It's all those ones. I don't know if you've ever looked into like the stellar nebula theory. I mean, if people go back and look at what they truly believe in, it's nonsense. It just makes no sense at all. How can gravity choose who is going to be in charge of being a center?
Yeah.
If everything sprays out from the Big Bang, how did Mars raise its hand and say, okay, I'm going to be a center. I will collect things to me. And then Earth said, okay, I'll collect things to me. And Saturn said, okay, I'm going to collect some things over here. It just doesn't make any sense. It would all collect as one big ball.
And the asteroid belt will just, I'll collect all these bunches of rocks.
And then we'll stay in this orbit out here. We won't come near you guys. And it's just, to me, it's nonsense.
Yeah. And I wasn't even shy of saying that, I don't know if you heard me saying it, where water on the Earth, because water forms uniformly, supposedly on a sphere in a in space. And I said, you know what, I actually dig that. I could see that, the water would form uniformly on a sphere if it wasn't, if it wasn't next to any other spheres and it wasn't moving. If it was just sitting there in the darkness of space, but the second you start rotating it, let alone rotate it 1,000 miles an hour, that water's going somewhere.
Yeah, my biggest proof on that one is I always ask people, don't you remember the gravitron when we all held on tight and it pulled us to the center?
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not what the gravitron did. It forced us to the outside and it's like, remember, and we couldn't even feel it was spinning. We had no idea.
A salad spinner. It's like
a salad spinner, yeah.
Yeah, water goes out to the side.
It does not take water much to move. I mean, again, make a hard left or right turn when you're holding a coffee in your hand, in your car. I mean, that water's going somewhere.
Well, that's another proof that I have of the moon landings is when they're driving that little buggy around the moon, moving at the speeds they were moving, if they would have made a right or left turn, the thing would have flipped.
Yeah.
It's a sixth of the gravity.
Yeah.
And again, I asked for, why doesn't that rover over on Mars pick up a rock? Pick up a rock and show us on camera it dropped the rock. Well, they can't do that because it would have to fall a third of the speed that it does on Earth, and those are the kind of things they can't fake anymore.
I want the rover to show me a time lapse of what the stars look like from Mars.
That would be awesome, but you won't see it.
I know. God damn it.
I even said if they would throw a golf ball. When those guys are out working on the space station, why not turn and face the camera and throw a golf ball and let that thing float and come towards the camera? They won't show that because if it's in a pool, number one, it's not going to go anywhere. And
they're not going back to the moon anytime soon, so it costs too much money.
No. 2030.
No, they are. They're going building a base on the moon. They said.
They said.
I
they're
mean,
going.
yeah,
But they
I
also
know they're
said,
not.
They also said they're going to Mars, and Congress is already hedging. Don't think that's an accident. Where they're saying, look, you can't have both. You're going to do it. You either have enough money for a moon base, or you have enough money for a Mars mission. You can't have both.
How have they gotten away with doing nothing? I mean, I really want somebody to tell me what has 15 years on the space station done for humanity. Just give me one example.
Dumbed up things down.
Pillsbury food sticks, Tang, Velcro microwave ovens, and flat Earth for us to talk about.
Yeah, I love microwave ovens. That's my favorite. Like nobody would have invented those if it wasn't for space. We'd all be using fire and sticks to cook our food.
Again, if you do enough press conferences and smile for the camera and run the stories every so often, Congress has bought it. And we should do a quick retro. For people that are listening out there that that are still holding holding on to the moon mission. It's like, look, just go to any archive out there, because the pictures, they're fairly high res now. You can blow them up on any screen. They have aged horribly. They give it all away. I mean, that shot that you and I were comparing today, or was it yesterday?
Oh, yesterday, yeah. Those pictures are crazy.
I mean, that one shot, that one little panoramic shot was so. I mean, there was so many things. Each one of them was enough to crucify the whole thing. The shadows that converge for no apparent reason, even though the sun is 93 million miles away. It's like, no, it's either multiple light sources or the light source that you have is right behind you.
Yeah, and it just proves that's absolute proof that people do not do even the slightest little bit of a
They don't want
search.
to. Nope.
They don't. They want to just repeat what they've been told. Like, we went to the moon landings. Yeah, we did.
Because they're afraid that if they looked into it, they would become what they hate, which is the people who are
And they
the
don't even
debunkers
realize
of it.
that they're afraid, I don't think. It's more
No, I agree with you, Miss. They don't even realize they're afraid. It's just fitting in, I think, is just on such a deep-seated level. They don't even realize they're trying to fit in. In fact, they probably consider themselves skeptical, independent thinkers.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we're all the crazy ones with the conspiracy theorists. Oh, let me guess, the government dropped the buildings in New York, huh?
It's like,
Tinfoil hat wearing.
yes. I guess I shouldn't talk to you then.
Moving on.
But yeah,
It's crazy. Yeah, and if you just did any searches, I mean, I can just look at the lunar lander. It's all I need to look at.
Oh, the lunar lander. Oh, you mean the one that who was the guy that was I can't remember the flat earther that was talking about recently, where he was calling it the car, the moon car, because really that's what it was.
Oh, the rover, you mean?
Yeah, the rover.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like no pictures of of them ever putting it together. Not one of them ever
They said
even
it unfolded, like it folded out like an erect set.
Yeah.
I think they just grabbed
Transformers
from Barney's bag. You know,
Yeah, see what we can make today.
yeah, exactly. That's what it looks like. Pull out some saran wrap and
Yeah, the moon car, or the guy that did that wonderful camera stabilized thing, where he just sped up the speed 2x and then stabilized it, and you see it driving, and it looks perfectly fine. It looks like a normal car driving through the sand.
And there's so many
Isn't that called
pictures of it.
Spooky Moon Rover on YouTube?
yeah,
It's so good with the music. Spooky, that old song.
There's so many pictures of it that show no tracks. Like they lowered it from a crane. It's just there's like no tracks coming to or away from it.
And the PNG like pixel cuttings are just
they're bad.
I mean, if anybody showed you a picture and said this is real of anything on Earth and it had like pixels like that, people would say that's fake. That's fake.
And then they show all those rocks
not
and everything
space.
around there, and then they show that boot print from Aldrin.
Oh god.
Yeah.
It's like you can only make that in mud
Or ash.
Or ash, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And if it was that deep and that ash, then it leads to the next question, which is, who forgot to put in the blast crater?
Right, exactly.
10,000 pounds of thrust and that ash didn't go anywhere?
Nope.
It's like, what exactly did they land on? And they never did dig past that ash. So it's like, okay, it was real soft, but what was under it? It's like if all you had to do was move your hand. It's like 6 inches down. Was there rock?
Yeah.
You don't know.
And they only spent 2 hours on there or whatever?
The
each
first time? No,
First
they-
time.
Each time they got a little bit longer.
Oh, but that's just ridiculous. You go all the way to the moon, you're going to spend 2 hours there?
The moon footprint as well didn't compare as an exact match with the astronaut's boot on the suit that we have here in some museum, too. It's a different footprint on
Yeah,
the
but
boot.
then what they do is, because this is what sucks, they're in charge of the truth. So once they realized the mistake, then they said that they wore booties, like these plastic things that go over the shoes, and then those matched. Everything is after the fact. When you're in charge of truth, I've told you before, like if I'm home all day by myself and I want to make up whatever I did during the day when you get home, you can never prove me wrong.
No.
And that's what they have that.
What was the reason? Because they didn't want to get the interior of the lunar module dirty, like
it's
slippers or
all
something for inside.
It's so
Their
ridiculous.
whole spacesuit had whatever they were afraid of
drenched.
contaminating.
Yeah.
They'd have to wear a booty over their entire body if that's indeed true.
I still love when they get home on 11 and they go into the quarantine and the guy goes with them.
Yeah, goes into the
Goes
quarantine.
into the quarantine with him and they shut the door. It's like, who's the guy that didn't even have a face mask on that
There's a
just
guy
went in there?
spraying like disinfectant
He
around.
sprays down the stairs and everything. It is
And
too
then there's President Nixon making that okay sign, and then the astronauts making the okay sign back from inside the quarantine. And yes, it could have been just an innocent okay sign, but yet, I don't know. A lot of people think that hand signal means something else.
Yep. And Nixon, to me, he actually looks like a clown. The man looked like a clown. I just think of him that way. And how can you have one president who is in charge of every single Apollo mission.
Who was an actor? Who was
that was
a wrong person. Never
you're thinking
mind.
of Reagan.
Just
You're thinking of Reagan.
joking. I'm testing everybody.
Well, but he's the one president who left because he was a liar.
Right. And all the rest get to stay in that are liars.
That are liars.
Yeah, they're fine.
Are you fraudulent? Are you a liar? Okay, perfect.
You're in. I still think the craziest thing to me is the whole idea of SpaceX 50 years after the moon landings, sending up a rocket and bringing it back down and landing it on Earth. And these people are jumping up and down and doing parties, and it's in every news story. And it's like, guys, 50 years ago,
we did it on the moon.
We took a rocket and landed on the moon where we'd never been before. They got out and partied for a couple hours. Then the thing took off. It rendezvoused with an orbiting thing, and then came back to Earth and dumped in the ocean the exact spot they were supposed to.
And they're all excited.
And you're excited about a thing going up to space and coming right back down.
That would be like having a live like news casting thing of somebody getting into an airplane and flying it, taking off, and then they come back and land and everyone's cheering like, we've never seen this before in our life.
I can't believe you did that. You just flew from Oakland to San Francisco.
You just drove your car to work and back. Yay!
Yay! Yeah. It's ridiculous. It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me why we've got to have all these parties about it. It's like, just admit it. And that's what I was trying to tell Red Rhetoric that today. It was like, just admit that we didn't go to the moon. You're doing yourself a disservice by talking about how much you care about science and how much you care about truth, and then saying to my face that we went to the moon. It's like, you can't even go there. It's not a place to go.
Yeah.
No. Well, but if you
go to Argentina or something.
The thing is if they admit they're wrong on one thing, even if it is as small as whatever the smallest thing that they've lied about, it was whatever.
Yeah.
Even if they get one admission, it causes people to start thinking and questioning, well, what else are you lying about? So
House of Cards.
They can't do that.
And what people need to realize, though, is science is always wrong. That's the point.
Right.
The whole point of science is to keep getting closer to the truth. It's not to adopt a bunch of dogmas and say, well, this is gravity and we can never let it go because we need it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, the Neil deGrasse Tyson, every time I run into that clip, it aggravates me to such a degree where he says that, not the B.O.B. retribution thing, but
But that was all kind of in gist. You're talking about when he says...
science is right whether you believe it or not. And it's like, wow, such arrogance.
Oh, and that one time when he's talking to Larry King, and Larry King says, what do you like most about yourself? And he says, well, I've worked really hard on this. It's the ability to speak fundamental truths where I can walk into any conversation and say my point and nobody else there can have an opinion. That's what he said.
Gag me.
I mean, he said that, and he's like, because in the universe, there's the laws of physics and everything else is opinion.
But yet he goes on Sway's show and basically admits he doesn't debate anybody.
Oh, I know, because he's not there to debate.
Yeah, he won't.
Interesting show. I'm glad Jesse spots that.
That was an interesting show, and there was another guy that said that the callers that called in weren't buying it. They were not picking up what he was putting down, which was he was trying to snow him with certain things. And I still think everything in mainstream media has an ulterior motive, and I don't think by any stretch it was an accident that he comes on mainstream television and does it. But he did it in a way to where he wasn't bringing his everything he could have brought. And why? So I still think there's a secondary.
Isn't taking it seriously. They don't.
Yeah,
prepare for
the thing is they know that it can't be taught. I mean, otherwise, let's picture a scientific world that they want us to believe in. If somebody came out like that, who's famous, who's got followers like B.O.B., and makes a statement that goes against what science has proven, then you would do a show on Friday night on ABC where Neil deGrasse, teaches the science behind it. But then they can't do that because there is no science behind it. They would have to get out there and say, well, we decided long ago to go this route.
Mm-hmm. And they would just make fun of people. And a good example, I think, is when you're in school and you have a question. Most people don't ask questions just because I'm pretty sure, I know I didn't, because I was always afraid of looking stupid for asking. But you ask a question to your teacher if you don't understand something, and they don't yell at you. They don't call you names. They say like, well, what do you not understand about it? Let me help you. Whatever. You don't see that from any of the scientists or NASA lovers. When there's questions, you just hear name calling, which is ridiculous. Like if someone really doesn't understand something, why don't you tell them and teach them how to understand it?
Right. Exactly.
So anyway.
Well, it's because they take the role of a parent. That's what Neil deGrasse Tyson reminded me of. When a parent, you're a kid and you're questioning your parent, why can't I go out at 11 at night with my friends? And they'll say, as long as you live under my house, these are my rules. It's kind of
good point.
It's kind of like that. I say it, this is the way it is, so that's the way it is. When you're old enough, you can make your own rules. And that's what he's saying. He's our parent. He whatever he says goes. And if you don't follow those rules, you're not just out. Yeah, you're out. You're out of anyone's going to ever respect.
Yeah. And it kills me because and I know he probably feels this in some way. I know he's getting a little older. But it's like, look, he is not even in probably the top 100 physicists in the world. Not even close. There are guys that are way, way smarter than him that specialize in a lot greater breadth of knowledge. He's wheeled out there because he's good on camera, plain and simple.
And he was handpicked by Sagan.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's got. I've talked to a bunch of people over the years, because he's been around for a while, and it's like they all say, "Oh, he's got a lot of charisma. I really like him. He gives me a good vibe." I'm just going, yeah, because again, and I know I've said it, and I'm not slandering. I'm saying, look, yeah, because he's a cross between Bill Cosby and Sinbad. That's it.
Very good.
Wow, that's nice.
He's out women.
He's tall, he's got that smile, he's got that sort of, and he really could have done with his sort of charisma. He could have definitely done show business in 2 seconds. In fact, he could have picked any scientific field.
He is doing showbiz.
Well, you know what I mean. He could have done actual formal entertainment. He could have been on a sitcom in 2 seconds.
Or comedy. Yeah, he's an actor.
He could have done stand-up comedy. He could have done, he's good on camera. So good is in fact that I think it's
Newton saying, "Oh, you just throw a cannonball at the perfect speed and it will go around the Earth and come up and hit you on the other side." That's a thought experiment. It's not reality. It could never be tested. And Mark, one thing I was saying today is how could they have ever tested space to start with? Meaning, if let's say you and I are it's 100 years ago and we're talking about getting to space, how would you test what is up there? Because you can't replicate space on Earth. Now, a lot of people say, no, they can get a gravity chamber. They can get gravity, but a gravity chamber has walls. It's not a vacuum if it's got walls, because you can squirt a rocket off of it. You can do a lot of things because it's got walls, but space doesn't have walls. So how could you have ever even thought?
Good point.
There's just nothing you could have done to ever prepare you for
and
what
that's
space
why they
was.
chose it. That's if you're an authority and you want people to not ever disprove you, you choose concepts or theories that cannot be tested.
Absolutely.
So therefore, we can say whatever we want because we're the authority. We're telling you what's true, and you can't go and test it, and neither can we. So we're just going to tell you exactly what's going on, and you just can't ever disprove it.
Yeah, and that's why I think, by the way, they created the Van Allen radiation belts, is because it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yes,
NASA announces it, says, "Hey, here's something it's radiation. It's really deadly, awful. Never ever go up there." And anyone that was thinking about doing it privately is going, "Well, that sounds horrible. We're not going up there." But then it's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, we have to go to the moon now." It's like, what are you talking about? We just announced the Van Allen radiation.
Turn off the Van Allen belt switch. Turn that off. We're going to go.
Yeah, how do we get past it? And it's like, well,
I love that guy when you were asking him that, and he just
I was just thinking of it.
Yeah, it was so funny because he's like, "Well, they went through it really fast."
We didn't get anywhere near that.
Or they went the polar route.
They went the polar route. Yeah.
They went the polar route. I was going, no. And then, of course, the Orion trial by fire thing, he had no idea it even existed.
That was great.
Dude, it's still out there right now. You could look. I have no idea why that video was even made. Why is that still there?
I don't know.
It is so damning to them. It's like you're
talking about the blonde kid that talks.
Yeah. Kelly Smith. The Aryan Youth Movement.
I still love the one with Alan Beam where they ask him, "And did you go through the radiation belt?" "No, we never went that far." "Oh, they're 1,000 miles from Earth." "Well, then we went right through them."
Yeah, how would an astronaut not know about the Van Allen?
And they were saying they saw little stars in there when they closed their eyes or something like that.
So funny. He's like, "Yeah, close your eyes real tight and
just pay attention.
Pay attention."
That could happen to you now where you sit if you press on your eyelids.
Yes,
exactly.
And you know what I think?
Break.
I think that they don't care that this review is out because nobody is indoctrinated with any research.
No, it's just us, and it just gives us more reason to look crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll be back with more craziness from 4 nutbags.
Hey, excuse me.
Okay, 3.
Truth Frequency with Chris and Shuri Geo. Friday and Saturday on Truth Frequency Radio.
Welcome back. It's Monday night, which means it must be time for Raw, which is coming to a close here. We're in the last segment. We're here with my wife. Missa, how are we?
We're good, and I think you should start calling me Miss. I'm having issues with my name.
We'll talk about that after the show. And with us also is Mark Sargent and Patricia Steer. How you guys doing? Thanks for joining us this evening. It's been fun.
Yeah,
It's been great. Love it.
I'm doing well. I just found out during the break that I apparently now have an app.
What?
What?
A listener, I just put it in the thing for you guys. A listener just completed an app for me at the iTunes, apple.com. Flat Earth Clues by Mark Sargent.
Nice. I want an app.
That is so awesome because then you can just send somebody the app to download and like learn about the flat Earth here this way.
Yeah. So
That is so good.
That's really cool. I had no idea. He's probably making money off it. I don't care.
I'm gonna go find it right now.
Well, it's right there.
Well, Jeran.
I'm in the room. She's not.
Tell me if it works. It looks like it's going to work.
I'll look for it.
But yeah,
She'll look that up.
You should tell Mark the story of the girl that we were talking to who was that girl that we were going to like affiliate with, where she said you told her to watch the videos. And then she did, and she's like,
oh, yeah. Well, yeah. And everybody who wants to, because I keep saying I'm going to plug her site and I keep forgetting. If you guys like ebooks, if you go to globalgray.com.
.co.uk. Oh, wait.
You can go globalgray.com.
Sorry.
Or globalgray.co.uk. I think either one works. She's got the most amazing collection of old free PDF ebooks, and she does an amazing job at it. And we were talking, and she said, and I asked her, I said, hey, well, do you want to put a link on your site to our bookstore, and we'll put one back and forth, and we agreed. And then I told her about my YouTube channel. I just said, I have a lot of users on YouTube that would like your store. And since it's free, do you mind if I mention it in a commercial or something? And she said, that'd be great. She goes, what channel is yours? And so I said, okay, here we go. I got to preface this a little bit. So I just said, well, before you go thinking I'm nuts, it's a channel where I'm talking about the earth being flat. And she kind of said, okay, what do you mean, flat, like 2D? And I'm like, no, it's 3D, it's 3D. And I said, tell you what, why don't you look at it tonight and talk to me about it tomorrow.
You told her to watch the clues video.
Right. I sent her the link to Mark's clues. I said, start here and talk to me tomorrow. Well, I got an email at 6 o'clock in the morning that says, I'm on clue 7. I haven't slept, so I'm going to take a nap now.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
now
so good.
So cool.
It's just typical. I mean, it's what people get into, especially somebody like her, because if you've gone through books like she has or like we have, it's very easy to know something is up and not know what that something is.
Yeah.
You can read it in every book ever written. Somebody's trying to say something and somebody's trying to get something out, but
Golf
they can't.
Golf ball size understanding.
Yep, exactly. So also for everybody who's in the chat room, if you have any questions for any of the four of us, simply type question and then your question, and we'll try to get to some of those if we have time.
And don't get all butthurt if we don't get to your question, all right?
Yeah, don't get butthurt.
Oh, are we taking questions?
I don't even know.
I just opened it up to see if anybody. I was tired of hearing Mark talk, so I thought.
I like that Patricia does that. Patricia, when you do that on your show, when you read off questions, I think it's really cool. So
I love doing
like
it.
Patricia.
But
Trying to be
today, there was a couple of questions because we just did a show today, being that it is Monday, where I am anyway, and we do a show every Monday, Mark and I. And today we got a lot of weird questions. It goes in phases with questions.
Like what?
Being weird. Well, today there was some statements about Mark and I having a daughter.
Yeah,
Boy.
we have a secret daughter.
I've
Her
heard that.
her name's
Right?
Croatian Girl.
Not Orphan Red.
No, it's not Orphan Red.
I'm confused.
Oh, somebody's actually saying that because Croatian Girl is 16 years old, she would actually be about the right age if Patricia and I had a daughter.
Oh, boy.
16 years ago.
And you guys just meeting and it doesn't have no
Nope.
effect.
There's no
No,
way to
because
actually
we're not
prove.
we're
Right, we just
spies.
met via Flat Earth. These people are saying we're secret married, that
Yeah.
we live in the same house and record in different rooms, and that the Croatian Girl is our daughter, and that Mark is Croatian. The guy was saying you can't hide the fact that you're Eastern European from me.
Boy.
Exactly.
I still thought
just listen to him. How does Croatian Girl have the accent and we don't?
Exactly.
The best story
Skips
was
a generation.
when you were watching
A
Mark
lot of training.
and you said you thought his cat was fake.
Who?
When you're watching Mark's cat and you're like,
Oh, that still kills me.
Oh,
I
God.
think that cat's fake. I'm
Well,
like,
then start moving. You look dead for a
I
second.
think get sucked into the shill moment for a second.
That wouldn't make me fake. That would just make me Dr. Evil. I just
Like he's
nice
trying to
kid,
impress
Dick.
Patricia. He's just look at my cat that I have, just like you. Like,
Because I've seen
a
posts
stuffed
people say
animal.
like Patricia and her hologram cats. I'm like, yes, they're hologramming cats in her house.
They're not real. My cats. And also, I've heard I rent them just for the shows
rent them.
because I'm in a studio. It's not my real
Well, you
place
know,
where I live.
just
It's a
talk
fake
about
studio.
Oh my god.
Talking to getting a little bit out there is after this whole thing went down with Morgile and Matt, I kind of said, okay, well, I should be the bigger man and forgive and forget and let Morgile back on the show, and everything was fine. And
Contrary to his wife's personal opinion.
and Matt kind of had a issue with that too. So he calls me and says, "Well, I guess you're on their team now." And I said, "No, dude, I host a show, and I'm just trying to have a show. I don't want, if you guys have issues, you take that between yourselves. I'm just trying to have a show." And he said,
I agree.
"Well, it just looks like you could be an actor yourself." And I said, "Dude, I invited you over to my house." He's like, "Yep," and I heard footsteps upstairs the whole time I was there. I was like, "That was my dog, dude. We put the dog upstairs." And he's like, "Well, your house did seem rather empty." I said, "With the 45 bookcases full of books? You got to be kidding me."
He's like, it was really clean. I was like, yeah, I kind of cleaned for guests.
I was like, "Are you trying to say that?" And then he's like, "Well, you don't live there anymore, do you?" I'm like, "No, I lost the effing house, dude."
Look it up.
It's so sad because you look at it from his perspective and you're like, "God, that does look like we're
That looks
fake."
bad. I was like, babe, find proof that we live there. Like,
I had
go
to send him
online.
pictures of our wedding. That was crazy.
That's good stuff.
Wow.
I was told that I am not real and this isn't a real place because there's no quote unquote dirty dishes in my sink. I wash my dishes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, they should be our sink then maybe that would prove us. Prove us.
Hey, real quick, because I don't want to forget, because I know we're in the last segment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But what because I know you have an opinion on it. What do you think of the whole press reset radio or press earth reset and all those guys thinking that, the heavy debunker guys on that side thinking that all of us are in on the same operation?
Yeah.
That they-
It's ridiculous.
Right.
They just don't want to they don't want to face what we're discussing. They just don't want to go there.
No, and I have one more video coming out, and I even say at the beginning, this is the last time I'll address Jeff C. and these guys, because they come with cherry-picked evidence and just it's nonsense. They're not disproving anything.
No.
The way that he talks, the way that he went off on Dave Weiss was terrible.
Oh, he hates Dave Wise for a whole completely different reason, though.
Oh, I don't know the reason then, I guess.
Oh, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Son.
Dave and he had a history. Dave takes credit for chasing him out of the internet for a while, chasing
Because
him
of
Kind of disappears, I hear.
a hoax event, TransAsia. Many
the
people
flight.
thought it was a hoax event, the flight, and David Weiss and others were among those who were thinking that was some kind of a weird government thing.
It was.
And then Jeff C. Yes, I agree. And Jeff C. took the tact that it was real, completely real, and that created a divide and quote unquote tore the truth community apart. And that is why Jeff C. hates David Weiss and has a very colorful nickname for him.
Yes, somebody who does something with their mouth.
I mean,
Yes.
honestly, once he figured out that David was into the flat Earth movement, he amped it up a bit. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally gonna go after these guys."
I thought it was so funny to watch that guy though go through my channel and say like, "And this is his second video. Look how well this is put together."
Yes,
The
I saw that.
I'm like, dude, that's an app on my phone. It took me 5 minutes. Like, I was like so shocked that he was saying those. And he's like, "And look at these thumbnails are really well put together." I'm like, dude, I use Paint.
That's
I use Paint. I grab it.
You're actually very creative, but in fact, I was listening to that too, and I almost chimed in. I almost wrote a thing. It's like, what you told me. It's like that's Studio 12 that I bought secondhand for like $4.
Mark. Only
And
Mark.
I moved up in the
knows
world
that.
now. I'm at Studio 18. So
I thought it was
you
funny.
actually turned it up.
He went through all the different flat earthers videos, mine as well, and he was saying, look, all these people came out around the same time, like it's a conspiracy, they're all connected. No, I mean, many of us found certain things like flat earth
and I've
clues
explained
or
from the
Matt
very
Boylan or Eric
That's the way
at the same time.
It comes
Yeah.
up, feed off each other.
Missa was telling me to make a video in December, and I just said, I can't do that. I can't do it. I can't be, I said, even if we say we were joking or something, I said, I need there to be somebody else so I can kind of piggyback off them and say, well, he did it too.
So that's what.
And when we saw Mark, and when we put our first video out, I'm pretty sure Mark's was only like clue 6.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even done yet.
Right. It just so happened that those first I liked the way that you presented it because it was like, I could do that. I
Yeah.
could put images on the screen and talk. Is because I didn't ever like the idea of, I hate the people who have to look at their face the whole time. Like press reset Earth. Dude, I don't want to see your face. Like, that's just not what I want.
I thought you were gonna pick somebody else, somebody shirtless.
Yeah, like or like me, because my face is always on my videos. Too.
Well,
that I don't mind.
Yeah, because I don't mind looking at somebody who is not being a douchebag.
Yeah, and so it just, I don't know, it just was the way that Mark presented it. And then I said, and I told 1,000 people, I mean, it's never was, Mark didn't call me and say, you better get in the flat earth right now. You better start making videos. I didn't know the guy. Yeah, and I just started making videos myself. And I still tell the story that we didn't know if we would get 100 views on the first video I did. We thought it would be cool if 100 people.
We were all excited, like, babe, it reached 100.
We have 100 views on this. Now I don't even think I'd be able to see 100 views. The video would be above that before I released it.
Yeah.
And
it's funny.
Yeah, it's just funny because if people, and I think that's the hardest thing for me to understand is that they can't put themselves in your shoes. So once you know, like for instance, for example, I know I'm not a shill, that this is all being done on my own, free will, my own fruition. And I know my wife is not being put up to anything. So anybody who comes
really
out and
know
says some crazy, stupid statements, it really just discredits them. And I know the same thing must be for Mark and the same thing for Patricia, that
Exactly.
They make themselves look stupid.
It really is bad.
You know though.
It shows they're bad researchers when they call
Exactly.
people shills. Because I know when they call me a shill, I'm not one. So they've done some pretty shoddy research on me.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
In fact, research that Jeff C. did on me was looking at 2 videos that were done by Eric Dubé's people and Eric on me. That's how he researched who I was.
Yeah, me too. He said, if you go to that,
looking at hater videos.
he said it was the Flat Earth site. If you go to the Flat Earth's webpage, they all call Jeran a shill. They say he's working for the government. I'm like, you're talking about 3 people in a hole
at IFERS. It's totally different.
in Taiwan or wherever they're at, in Singapore. Like, I'm like, those people mean nothing, and they just went off and called me Mark, or what's his name? Mike Moriarty, and I stole $80,000.
The word research, the idea of research is not looking into only one side of something. You research.
You should pick it
both
apart.
ends. You research the pros and the cons, and look at people's opinions and experiences, and then you come to a conclusion. You don't just go to the con site, or the pros.
And also, that Jeff C. could have easily emailed me. My email address is I'm accessible all the time. He could have messaged me and said, hey, I'm going to be doing the show and on blah, blah, blah. And can you tell me where you're from or get me more information about who you are? No, of course not. That'd be research.
Yeah, and that would be an honest thing.
Or Eric Dubé could have came to me and said, hey, Jeran, I've got some information here saying that you might be this guy who stole $80,000. Can you tell me about the situation?
It just shows dishonesty and like she said.
Yeah, it's absolutely bad research. And so it just puts you in a different perspective, because I know Patricia's thought the same way I do, where sometimes I think, is anybody a shill? Or is it just the word that's being put out there? Because sometimes you're like, well, and I was saying this in the last video, I said, why don't we wait until somebody has been proven to be a shill before we ever say that word again? Yeah. Until somebody has proven that, then shouldn't we not be using the word? It's ridiculous.
I don't think they need shills because they grow them in schools. So
yes.
And they have the word. That's all you need to do. I mean, the word, when it hit the flat earth movement, wrecked it. I mean,
it's the word witch. It's
witch.
Today's version of the word witch, yes.
Yeah, you're right. It's very
where they used to determine whether a person was a witch by throwing the witch in the water. And if she drowned and died, she was not a witch. If she rose to the top and lived, she was a witch.
You did a rap. Why didn't I hear it? Now I'm confused.
Yeah, Eric Dubé did a rap.
Did you play? You didn't play it for me.
Oh, we played the other one. I played the other one that you sent to me, Mark.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh, the monster. What was it? The rap. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the world. Shoot.
Yeah,
Patricia, help me out. It was the one we used.
Is flat.
So that's. I thought
it is flat. That was a great song.
I thought you were talking about that earlier. I didn't know you were talking.
No,
about
Eric Dubé came out with a rap today where he looks crazed, and at one point he's all with his shirt off. He looks like an Ethiopian.
He's so skinny. He's so skinny.
Which is great. I mean, that's great and all, but there's one point that's just toward the end where he flexes his neck muscles and his chest muscles, and it's the striations of muscles, and his teeth are bared, and he looks like really literally a person you would never want to meet out in the street because they would want to kill you.
If you watch any of his older videos, I don't like to make fun of people, but this is really why would you post a video like this? His one of his first videos, it's just of him holding his breath and then making his chest like pump and his stomach like roll, and it's just the whole video for like a minute and 30 seconds. He's like holding his breath and showing how he can hold his breath sitting in the
very strange,
like, really weird.
Very strange.
I think that's probably some kind of yoga exercise.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of ability to do, possibly. So I'll give him that.
He's not doing it right then if he's making fun of people and
like I said, my whole issue was that I actually would say, and this might sound weird, that I would respect him when he came out and said he had problems with Patricia's show because she had people on there that had a mask on. I said, you know what? I might have a slight issue with that, but that's Patricia's show. It's her business. But then he says, because people might stumble upon her work and think it's crazy. So instead, he comes out with a video with him dressed as a woman as
twice.
As the number one flat Earth person as far as
if you type it in, it'll be Eric Dubé.
Right, you're going to find his video way before you're going to find Patricia's, and he's making fun of it.
Yeah,
he's making fun of it. It's like, so how do you not lose all respect? You're like, so you made fun of somebody for doing something, and then you went and did it even worse than they did.
And he also wears a mask in the very first of his 2 videos himself.
Does he
tied
really?
a mask? Yes, he tied a cloth mask over his face.
I didn't know that.
Really weird.
Yeah,
it's just
in the first
weird.
Now the thing is that the 2 people I had on, I've had over 63 shows now. The only 2 people
that's what they do.
that have had masks wear masks in their own videos.
Yeah.
Right, and then that's why I'm not saying that I have a problem with it. Like I said, it's just when he said that, it's like, okay, I could kind of see where he's going with that.
Yeah.
The other funny thing, speaking of
that
people,
was all she ever did was just masked people, but she doesn't even. She only had 2, so it's like, what are you talking about?
I actually found what happened to the Jeff character pretty funny. The Jeff, what's his last name? The redneck.
Jeff C?
Oh, no, Jeff Stewart.
Jeff Stewart. I mean, that guy had such an opportunity to be somebody good in this whole thing. He has good knowledge. He's funny. I mean, I remember watching his first 5 or 6 episodes.
I invited him on my show because I thought he was good.
He was like almost there. He's almost there.
And I'll air it out here right in front of everybody that he had sent me a message. It's almost kind of crazy because it's almost the same story that John told. But I just happened to look in my messages and saw a message from him. And I remembered seeing him in a video. And I was like, oh, this guy, I remember him. So I clicked on his name and came up and I was looking at his page and he had left his phone number. So I said, I'm just going to call this guy. He had said something about Flat Earth TV and having a 24-hour channel. And that he would like me to help him. I said, that sounds like a good idea. I could see a 24-hour channel working for Flat Earth. Yeah. So I called him, and right when he got on the phone, we're, hey, what's going on? Hey, I'm Jeran. Nice to meet you. And as I'm looking, I see the video of Eric Dubé dressed as Patricia Steere on his channel. And so at that time, I just said, why do you have that video of Eric Dubé dressed as Patricia on your channel? And he said, that's funny. I said, okay, but why do you have it? I don't understand why you have it on your channel. He said, because I think it's funny. And I said, okay, well, I'm just saying that we're all in this Flat Earth. It's hard enough as it is, Jeff, for us to come out and say what we're saying. Right. You're just, it's not even your content. You didn't even make that video. You just stole somebody else's shitty work and put it on your channel just to put it out there more. And I just said, if it was me, I'd take that down. Like, I said, do you have a problem with Patricia? He's like, no, I don't have a problem with Patricia. I think it's funny. And I said, okay, well, if it was me, I would take it down. So then it was Patricia who told me a day or 2 later that she said, hey, did you call Jeff and tell him to take down my video? And I said, no, because he went on, he was talking when he had Patricia on his show real quick. He had said, oh, well, Jeran and Morgile and 5 other people, people you sent out to call.
Yeah, he was saying that I made you do it. I didn't even know what happened.
Patricia, you were a badass when you went on.
That was a good, I like that
I was
too.
so proud
I was just so mad. He was saying all this horrible stuff about me. Somebody messaged me and I said, what? And I went and listened and heard him and said, I'm going to go and chat and asked to go on the show.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people would have shied away from that. And I my email to him, I read my email to Missa yesterday or the day before, which is 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when I just told Jeff, like, dude, you've burned every bridge. I will not talk to you again. It's, because I heard him say things like Globebusters. Somebody said, Globebusters over there talking about us showing kiddie porn over here. And like, does anybody believe that Bob or myself or Morgile would be on our show talking about kiddie porn on there? I mean, it's so ridiculous. And then somebody else came into their little chat and said to Jeff, well, were they talking about it on the show or were they talking about it in chat? He says, oh no, they were talking about it on the show. And he never flew. And it's like, at that point, I'm like, dude, you cannot just say things
No,
like that.
not like that.
No.
Well,
Like-
he also said that my goal in Flat Earth was one of them was to take over Globe Busters and destroy you.
Yeah, when he draws that little picture of the six of us, and this girl was working with JLB, I'm like,
And
dude,
this one-
I think you might
hardly
even
know
like Patricia doesn't
John
know John LeBon, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I did one. I had a little guest spot on one of his shows several months ago.
that's like,
Someday I might interview him, but I don't know John LeBon.
Yeah.
right. And they were saying, oh, and then the Globebusters, they thought they could get rid of Morgile, and it was just hilarious. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
how could you just come out and
And you
So-
know, you,
Bad researcher.
yeah,
There you
you
go.
can just
Evil
tell
intense.
the wheat from the chaff, you know.
you can definitely find it. So
Chaff.
Chaff.
Shaft.
Wheat from the non-wheat.
So anyway, it's been a fun ride, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you guys. You know, I talked to do you know who David Avocado Wolf is?
No.
Yes, I know who he is. Mhm.
Yes.
Because of natural health. I'm vegan. He's not vegan, but yes, he promotes natural health and healing.
Right. So I talked to him today, and he is
He called you.
yeah, I wouldn't say that he's a flat earth. Well, he is, but I mean, I wouldn't say that he's ready to break with it yet. But it's definitely something that he says for me to keep going with, that it's something that's being talked about in places that we don't know about yet. And
Fantastic news.
Isn't that
Yeah.
cool? I thought it was awesome.
and they want to even do a symposium probably the end of this year or beginning of next year. But he said basically just keep doing what you're doing. He's going to talk to me in a couple days. But I thought one of the best things he said is the great thing about this is everyone he's met that is into it is good-hearted people. They care about each other. They care about the world. They care about
Genuine.
animals. And I said, I can't say anything but the exact same thing. I mean, the people like Patricia, like Mark, these people, you know, it kills me when people call them names or say that they're shills because
They're
they have
not
never
at
done anything
all.
to me. I mean, Mark helped us get on TFR. Mark helped me. I was one of his interviews real quick. So, guys, I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Oh,
It's awesome.
very, very welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah.
Hope to do it again. If you ever want us on yours, well.
It feels good to have real truth genuine.
And
Thank you,
go to
guys.
Seattle and meet you. Maybe another time.
It's going to happen. We
It
can
will.
make it happen.
Maybe
We
this
just
year.
Can't stay
Yeah.
I can't say Mark's.
Flat Earth friendship. Truth and love.